Have you ever wondered what makes a villain truly unforgettable? Here's something most people don't realize. Quentin Tarantino has created some of the most disturbing, psychologically complex antagonists in cinema history. And the scariest part isn't the violence. It's how human they feel. So in this video, I'm counting down the 10 most terrifying characters from the Tarantino universe, and I promise you, number 1 will genuinely shock you, because it's not who you think it is. But first, let me tell you about the one mistake everyone makes when judging these characters. Most people think Tarantino's scariest villains are the ones who commit the most violence, but that's completely wrong. The truly terrifying characters are the ones who make evil look normal, who smile while they destroy you, who turn horror into a conversation over coffee. These are predators who've perfected the art of making you comfortable right before they strike. And today, we're diving deep into what makes each of these characters absolutely nightmare-inducing, using real psychological analysis and breaking down the specific techniques Tarantino uses to get under our skin. Let's begin with number 10. At number 10, we have Bud from Kill Bill Volume 2. Now you might be surprised to see him on this list, because he seems like the least threatening of the Deadly Viper assassination squad, but that's exactly what makes him so disturbing. Bud is a former elite assassin who's given up, working as a bouncer at a strip club and living in a trailer in the desert. But here's what makes him terrifying. He's the only character who actually defeats the bride in direct combat. Think about that for a second. This washed-up drunk with a shotgun loaded with rock salt is the one who buries her alive. The horror of Bud isn't in what he does. It's in his complete lack of ceremony about it. He doesn't monologue. He doesn't gloat. He just shoots her with the most dismissive, workmanlike efficiency you've ever seen. There's something deeply unsettling about a man who's so good at killing that he treats it like taking out the trash. Michael Madsen plays Bud with this exhausted cynicism that suggests he's seen and done things that have completely hollowed him out. This is a man with absolutely nothing to lose. No pride left. No code. Just a shell who still remembers how to kill with terrifying efficiency. Number 9 is Stuntman Mike from Death Proof. And this one deserves way more recognition as one of Tarantino's most purely evil creations. Kurt Russell plays him with this charming good old boy persona that completely masks the fact that he's a serial killer who uses his death-proof stunt car as a murder weapon. What makes Stuntman Mike particularly disturbing is how he targets women, ingratiates himself into their groups, buys them drinks, acts friendly, and then systematically hunts them down on empty roads and murders them with his car, walking away from crashes that obliterate his victims. The most terrifying scene in Death Proof isn't even the violent crashes. It's watching him operate in that bar, seeing how well he plays the role of the charming older guy with Hollywood stories. He's calculated, patient, and he's clearly done this many times before. The way he survives impacts that should kill anyone shows he's planned every detail, and the sick pleasure he takes from the chase before the kill puts him firmly in slasher villain territory. But what really cements his place on this list is the fear in his eyes when his final intended victims fight back. It reveals he's not just evil, he's a coward who only feels powerful when he has total control. At number 8, we have Ordell Robbie from Jackie Brown, played brilliantly by Samuel L. Jackson. On the surface, Ordell seems almost likable. He's charismatic, funny, and philosophical in his way. But make no mistake, this is a ruthless gunrunner who murders people with casual ease whenever they become inconvenient. What makes Ordell terrifying is how quickly he switches from friendly to fatal. He shoots Beaumont Livingston in night in the middle of some urban nowhere and drives away like he just dropped someone off. The horror of Ordell is that he seems so reasonable right up until the moment he decides you need to die. And then it happens so fast you don't see it coming. He's a businessman who simply removed morality from his calculations, and that cold pragmatism makes him far more frightening than characters who are obviously violent from the start. Number 7 brings us to Elle Driver, also known as California Mountain Snake, from the Kill Bill films. Daryl Hannah plays her with a cold, venomous cruelty that makes your skin crawl. Elle is terrifying because she's patient, methodical, and she takes pleasure in suffering. She disguises herself as a nurse to murder the bride while she's in a coma. Think about how evil that is, killing a defenseless woman in a hospital bed. But what really showcases her sadism is how she tells Bud the story of her master Pai Mei before the black mamba she's hidden in the money kills him. She wants him to know what's about to happen, wants him to experience that terror. She's driven by jealousy, pride, and a genuine enjoyment of cruelty. And that combination makes her one of Tarantino's most frightening female villains. The eye patch somehow makes her more menacing. It's a constant reminder that she's already survived losing an eye, and she's still coming for you. If you're enjoying this breakdown and want to see more deep dives into Tarantino's greatest villains, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now, let's get to the top 6. Coming in at number 6 is Mr. Blonde, whose real name is Vic Vega, from Reservoir Dogs. Michael Madsen's performance here is iconic for good reason. Mr. Blonde represents pure, unpredictable sadism. The infamous torture scene, where he cuts off a police officer's ear while dancing to Stuck in the Middle with You, isn't just violent. It's a window into a mind that genuinely enjoys inflicting pain. What makes Mr. Blonde so terrifying is that he doesn't torture for information. He's not even particularly angry. He does it because it amuses him. The other criminals in the film are clearly disturbed by him, which tells you everything you need to know. When hardened criminals think you're too crazy, you're operating on another level entirely. Joe Cabot vouches for him because they have history, but even Joe doesn't truly understand what Mr. Blonde has become. That combination of cruelty and calculation puts him high on this list. At number 5, we have Steven, played by Samuel L. Jackson in Django Unchained, is terrifying in a completely unique way. He's the head house slave at Candyland, and while he isn't literally the boss, he's Candie's most dangerous lever. A gatekeeper and enforcer with constant access, sharp instincts, and the ability to steer outcomes from inside the house. What makes Steven so disturbing is that he's chosen to align himself completely with the most brutal logic of slavery to secure his own survival and comfort. He's intelligent, manipulative, and absolutely ruthless toward his own people. When he figures out Django and Dr. Schultz's plan, he doesn't just expose it, he seems to take vicious satisfaction in doing so. The moment where he drops the shuffling performance and turns razor cold is genuinely chilling, because you realize the elderly man everyone underestimates is actually a master manipulator who's been playing the room. Steven becomes the embodiment of complicity, twisted into something monstrous, willing to preserve a system that enslaves and murders people who look like him because he's carved out a position of relative power within it. That moral bankruptcy, combined with his intelligence, makes him one of Tarantino's most psychologically disturbing characters. Number 4 is Calvin Candie from Django Unchained, and Leonardo DiCaprio's performance is mesmerizing in its monstrosity. Candie is a plantation owner who forces slaves to fight to the death as mandingo fighters for his entertainment. He's educated, cultured, obsessed with French society, yet fundamentally brutal and sadistic. What makes Candie so terrifying is his cheerful charm masking absolute evil. He can discuss phrenology and pseudo-scientific racism over dinner with the same enthusiasm he shows watching men tear each other apart. The skull scene, where he explains his racist theories while holding a human skull, is particularly disturbing because he genuinely believes what he's saying. He's convinced himself that his cruelty is justified by natural law. When his pride is wounded after learning he's been tricked, his vengeance is swift and terrible. DiCaprio reportedly cut his hand during the dining room scene and kept acting. Candie represents systemic evil, the kind that builds institutions around cruelty and convinces itself it's civilized. At number 3, we have Bill from Kill Bill, played by David Carradine. Bill is terrifying because unlike most villains, he's right about some things. He's intelligent, cultured, genuinely loves his daughter, and he truly did love the bride. But that love is twisted, possessive, and ultimately murderous. When Beatrix tries to leave the life of an assassin behind to have a normal life and a family, Bill tracks her down and shoots her in the head on her wedding rehearsal, massacring everyone present. Think about the level of evil required to do that. To destroy someone's chance at happiness because you can't accept losing them. But Bill does it calmly, even sadly, like he's performing a necessary duty. The horror of Bill is that he's made killing into an art form and surrounded himself with a philosophy that justifies it. When he finally confronts Beatrix at the end, his famous Superman speech reveals how he sees the world. Everyone is pretending to be something they're not, except killers like them. He's groomed her, manipulated her, and when she chose life over death, he couldn't accept it. The 5-point palm exploding heart technique death is almost too merciful for what he's done. Bill is terrifying because he represents the mentor who becomes the monster you must kill to truly be free. Number 2 is Marsellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction, played by Ving Rhames. What makes Marsellus truly terrifying is that we barely see him in action, yet his presence dominates the entire film. He's the crime boss everyone fears, the man whose power is so absolute that just the mention of his name changes the temperature in the room. We hear a rumor in the dialogue that Marsellus had Tony Rocky Horror thrown out of a 4th-story window taller balcony because he gave Mia a foot massage. We know Vincent and Jules are carrying out a hit on his orders. The briefcase they're retrieving glows with an almost supernatural light. And while we never see what's inside, it doesn't matter. What matters is that people will die for it because Marsellus wants it. When Butch double-crosses him by not throwing the boxing match, Marsellus absolutely wants Butch dead and clearly mobilizes his people. That's why Vincent is waiting at Butch's apartment, expecting him to show up. The pawn shop scene reveals something even more disturbing. After being violated and humiliated, Marsellus promises his captor a future of suffering that's too horrible to even fully describe. He tells Zed he's going to get medieval on him, and you believe every word. What makes Marsellus Wallace so terrifying is the economy of his menace. He doesn't need long speeches or elaborate schemes. His power is absolute. His reach is everywhere, and his vengeance is guaranteed. He's the spider at the center of a web that spans all of Los Angeles, and if you cross him, there's nowhere you can hide. Ving Rhames plays him with such quiet intensity that even his silence is threatening. Marsellus Wallace is the embodiment of criminal power at its apex. Controlled, patient, and absolutely merciless. And now, number 1. The most terrifying character in any Tarantino film is Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. Christoph Waltz's Oscar-winning performance created a villain so perfectly crafted, so deeply disturbing, that he's become the gold standard for cinematic evil. What makes Hans Landa so utterly terrifying is that he's brilliant, charming, and he makes horror look like hospitality. He's called the Jew Hunter, and he's earned that title through a combination of detective work, psychological manipulation, and ruthless efficiency. The opening scene at the farmhouse is a masterclass in building dread. Landa sits down with a French farmer, asks to switch from French to English so the Jewish family hiding beneath them can't understand, drinks milk to seem wholesome, takes out his calabash pipe like Sherlock Holmes to signal he's solved the mystery, and you watch his face transform from smiling courtesy into cold calculation as he orders his men to open fire through the floorboards. Every word, every gesture, every moment has been calculated to achieve his goal. Landa is terrifying because he's not operating on emotion. He's performing a role with theatrical precision. And beneath that performance is a mind that sees people as problems to be solved. He interrogates Shosanna in the restaurant, possibly recognizing her, ordering milk again in what might be a threat or a game, and she's paralyzed with fear the entire time. He discovers Bridget von Hammersmark's shoe at the scene of the tavern shootout, confronts her at the premiere, and strangles her with his bare hands while making small talk. The most chilling aspect of Hans Landa is that he's not a true believer. He's an opportunist. When he sees the Reich will fall, he switches sides without hesitation, negotiating a deal that would let him walk away from his crimes with a new identity in America. He's a chameleon, adapting to whatever situation benefits him most, which means he has no real convictions, only the cold calculation of survival. Aldo Rain's final act of carving a swastika into Landa's forehead is the only way to mark a man who would otherwise disappear into a new life. Hans Landa is the ultimate Tarantino villain because he represents intelligence without conscience, a predator who's made hunting people into both an art and a business, and the chilling reality that the most dangerous people are often the ones who seem the most civilized. So there you have it, the 10 most terrifying characters from Quentin Tarantino's filmography, ranked from the dangerous to the absolutely nightmare-inducing. What did you think of this ranking? Did your favorite terrifying character make the list? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into Tarantino's darkest creations, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another analysis. Thanks for watching, and remember, the scariest monsters are the ones who make you smile before they strike.